Hello and welcome to ThisConnect. Today we are talking about stories.
Just felt like slacking off.
No, I don't think stories are slacking. I think stories are good fun. Okay, no. Wait, don't get distracted. When did you start in this business exactly?
Exactly.
Yeah.
2005.
Which month?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it was around April or so.
And what was the first thing that they told you to do?
Oh, that was very glamorous.
What?
So back then I had joined Adil
Hmm.
and he was starting Car India and Bike India.
Hmm.
So we were me and Amit Changani, we were the first two guys. I joined just before Amit,
Hmm.
then he came. So our job was to populate the back of the book. So those are the pages where you had all the specs of all the models. That was the okay part. The crazy part was we had to get pictures of the vehicles as well. And back then you didn't have the internet to
Hmm.
to just source images from
No.
libraries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we actually went to all the showrooms. They didn't know us from Adam. We just told them what we were doing, where we were coming from, and said, "Can we have your vehicles? We'll shoot them outside." So we got pictures of bikes on footpaths outside the showroom. That was the first big task that I did in this world. What about you?
I started on May 29th or June 2000.
Medal though, medal. Why?
I've always joined jobs on the first of the month, so it's very easy to remember these. So 29th I visited the office. I didn't join
Okay,
on May, and I think I joined on July 1.
okay.
And the first thing they told me to do is read the magazine. So I sat and read the magazine, Business Standard Motoring at that point in time. That was my job for the first 2 days, just read the magazine.
Oh yeah, nice.
After which it was the back of the book again.
Oh, are you serious?
Everybody starts at the back. I mean, back in the day, there used to be these huge tables at the back of the magazine, right? So somebody had to update those tables, make sure the specs were correct and all of that. That's where we all started.
We had literally a point and shoot camera with one of those for then cool where the zoom lens would come
But you
on.
had a digital camera.
Yeah, it was digital.
We started with
No.
transparencies. In the beginning, you would go and shoot in the morning and then you'd come back. And then there'd be hours of downtime because it's gone for developing.
So you shot?
No.
Ah,
Somebody shot. But
ah.
then you couldn't do anything because you didn't know if the pictures were there or not. Good pictures, reshoot hona hai, nahi hona hai. We didn't know any of this. So you come back to office saying, is it done? Is it done? Yes, it is done.
Yeah.
Now you wait.
Oh wow.
Then in the afternoon, the transparencies, and it was very fast, right? Because
Mm.
transparencies are expensive. Developing is
Yeah.
expensive. So it's not like you're
Correct.
shooting 5 rolls.
Yeah.
You'll be assigned 2 rolls for your shoot. Now you go to finish your 2 rolls and come back.
Every frame was accounted for.
But the fun part was that when I joined Business and Motoring, Bijoy was the editor, and he said, "Do you want to do cars or bikes?" I said, "I want to do bikes." "I won't let you do any cars." I said, "Yeah, that's fine with me."
Yeah.
He says, "Okay, here's Kinetic's phone number. Call Kinetic, get the GF125 or whatever it was, GF125. Get the GF125, go do a road test." How? He says, "They're not making this GF125 here. It's an import. So
Mm.
you'll get a sense of how to road test a motorcycle.
Mm.
And nobody's going to be able to buy this because you wrote the road test. So it's a safe road test for you to get your hands dirty with, right? Call, get the motorcycle, do a road test." I said, "How?" He says, "You're the motorcycle guy, you figure it out."
You got the designation. Now
Yeah.
get on with
Yeah,
it.
so I had to read Business Standard Motoring's motorcycle articles and see what we were up to. Then
Mm.
read what the other people were up to.
Mm.
Whatever few international magazines you had access to, you read those. And then you form an idea and a plan as to, okay, this is what it should look like.
Right.
And this is before we figured out that I didn't know how to write.
What?
I mean, I knew English, but I
Yeah.
wasn't a writer, right? I was a motorcyclist in my
Yeah.
head. But my first job was to write an article.
Huh.
And then it was a very good team because they really helped me and they were all
Mm.
good writers.
Mm.
So I wrote articles and then they got rejected and this is my structure nahi hai. So then you fix
Mm.
that. Then they say this is better, but this is missing. Then you fix that. And I think my first few articles I wrote 7, 8 times until I got it right. And it took them, I think 5, 6, 7 months of hand holding before they said, okay, now you can just do it by yourself.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but the fun part was because it was so new.
Right.
The profession itself was new. There weren't too many people in it. And it was before it became cool to be automotive journalists, right? So it was a lot more serious. B, you had a lot more time because in the entire month you had like about 5 vehicles, 6 vehicles. So you had time to road test. So if that kinetic road test came, I would have been writing the GA125 for a week without having to think about the story because there was time. right? And because you had time and I got thrown off the deep end with a team of people who were really helpful, it was very, very easy to learn.
Hmm.
So full excitement. And then I think my second story was 2 bikes, both of which I dropped.
Oh, really?
One on the first day, second on the second day.
Oh, shucks.
And then Deepak was our photographer. Deepak said, what should I tell Bijoy? So I said, whatever you need to. I mean, I dropped the bikes because I was hurt and I was injured and there was no riding jacket at this point of time. So there were bandages, everything was going on. So then Bijoy came and said, maybe you want to calm down a little bit. It's okay. If the photograph lean angle is not all that much, it is okay. Because I low
Oh, you
sided.
you were trying to lean it.
I low sided both in the same place.
So you were trying to lean the bike straight out of the out of the gates, huh?
A full enthusiasm, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't think I even knew about leaning the bike back then, man. I mean, how to go about it. I wouldn't have been able to think
No, so when
about
I
it.
came from Delhi to Mumbai, I was already riding quickly.
Huh.
I didn't have much skill in the sense of how I think about motorcycling today. I didn't think about it like that, but I wasn't a slow rider even then.
Okay, so that was your first test.
That the GF 125 was my first test, yeah. And when I look back on it, I am a little bit horrified by what I wrote because I thought, wow, what amazing motorcycle! Wow. And then as time passes, I think your database begins to settle in, and then the reality of this is good, this is bad, but this is how it fits into its own context happens.
Yeah.
And that takes a while. So if you read my first 10, 12, 14 road tests, don't buy a bike based on those at all.
And back at Car India, I can just tell you that at that time we were a small team, and we were all fresh, and we were working against the clock because we were starting from scratch. And I think for the first few months, so we were doing all this work, and then the testing started. And then testing means reviewing part, in which all we did was wash bikes, wash cars, make sure they turned up in place safe and sound, and that's about it.
Correct.
And slowly get into the process of writing. Because the first issue had to be ready. And I think the first and the second issue, we practically lived in the office. I remember one of my colleagues, he was basically doing the layouts for the magazine. He was sitting for so long at the desk, and he used to wear sandals. His feet took the shape of the sandals. He couldn't take his sandals off. That's the kind of hours we were putting in back then. Okay, it was crazy. So we didn't actually get down to driving that much until later. So at that point, when we were completely fried, just trying to get the magazine ready, I remember me and one of my colleagues then, Jayesh, we one night we were just fried out of our minds, and we were doing the last thing, which is captions, titles, all of that. So I think in one issue of Bike India, you'll find a lot of Pink Floyd songs there as captions. There's one I remember, the bike's just coming out of the sunset or sunrise or something like that. So the caption is "Piper at the gates of dawn" or something like that. So my God, now I think, man, like, what were we doing?
When was the first time you did a video?
First time I did a video would be 2006.
What was it?
It was a motorsports coverage thingy.
But actually, it's safe. Even if you screw it up, nobody's watching.
So that's the thing, right? So in the ladder of doing videos, so it was just like a throwaway thing that, hey, why don't you go cover this? And I said, yeah, sure. And I always wanted to go see the race cars. Indian, that back then it was the Fismies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it still is the Fismies.
They're still racing Fismies?
Yeah, of course.
So went there and it was like a full culture shock. I remember turning up there and it's like completely like chill. Like everybody is doing their own thing. And the cars were like, I really thought, I saw them and I was like, man, these are not really race cars, are they? They really, because they'd been through so much, they'd been repaired and all of that. They looked like they were beaten up.
Yeah.
And they didn't look that racy.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of okay, what's going on? But once the racing started, it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
All of that was there. And I remember there was my colleague who had come from the Chennai office, Krishna. I still remember, I feel so bad for him. I was doing my first PTC ever in life. PTC is the piece to camera, talking the camera bit. I must have taken like 17 takes. That guy, at the end of it, was just like, he threw his camera and said, "This is damn good. It's damn good. We're done." It's good. So I was like you're cornering. I was being over ambitious then. It's just before the before the bridge, that small
Hmm.
section, the squiggly section. So I was standing there with coming out of that lovely fast left. I don't know.
9.
Yeah, coming out of that, so you could see that. So my idea was the cars will be coming down there. You'll see them in the frame.
That is ambitious,
I
yes.
am standing here, but the sound of the cars won't bother the talking bit.
Hmm.
So by the time they come here,
I have
I'll
to finish my
finish.
BTC. Yeah, good job.
So I must have taken 2-3 races to do that for PTC. He was fried, poor guy, but then we became friends because of that.
Yeah, I think my first one was I was sent to Goa to cover the launch of the FZ16.
Okay.
I thought, okay, because I just joined Overdrive,
Hmm.
CNBC TV 18, TV show,
Hmm.
bike guy,
Hmm.
go.
Hmm.
And I did my part. And I was riding as usual, little bit more aggressively than everybody else. So lots of people got my footage. Various other camera people came and said, "Wow, what a rider you are!" And
Hmm.
okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Then the video comes out, and the video says, "This is the new Yamaha FZ16." And then it's my producer's voice for the entire rest of the video.
Are you serious?
I'm riding, bike shots are there. My voice is not there. My PTCs are not there. Everything is missing.
What happened?
So I called Sandeep. I said, Sandeep Shrikant was the
Sandeep.
producer. So I called Sandeep saying, "What happened?" "You speak too fast. It's unusable."
Oh.
So I have used as much as I could of your speaking parts. I said, "But there's just one sentence." He said, "Then I'm sorry. That's the only thing that's usable." And I think it took me 3, 4 videos to learn to speak much, much more calmly on camera. Because when I speak at my normal pace, at that point of time, I've slowed down a lot over the years. But when I speak at my normal pace, the camera is like, "This is a new SU1, Yamaha is a new 160, finished, PTC is over." And I'm PTC king because I went there and the camera guys, "आपने पहले किया है?" I said, "नहीं." "Okay, roll. One take, second take, done. Safety. अरे जरूरत नहीं है. It is all done. Nothing." I got nothing
Oh,
out of it.
oh wow.
What is the first press conference you attended?
I don't remember if it was actually the first, but
The most memorable one
the
in the
first
beginning.
one that I remember as a proper press conference for me that I
Hmm.
remember was Auto Expo.
Hmm.
So that would be 2006
Yeah.
Auto Expo. And it was a very special one. Like the whole, it was like for me, I mean, I know press conferences aren't interesting, but this was when Tata and Fiat were going to announce their JV.
Hmm.
So that whole pavilion had vibes to it. And the reason why I remember it the most was two reasons actually. The one was it brought me to Frank Sinatra.
Hmm.
The music that was playing there, the song that was playing was It Had to Be You. Imagine for a JV like that, that
Hmm.
song is playing, and I didn't know the song, but that song just stuck in my head,
Hmm.
and I remember it from then. So it just connects me to that every time. And first press conference, and Samir Kumar,
Hmm.
he was my boss,
Hmm.
and I mean, he was a support system for all of us. Yeah, loved working with him, and he's sitting next to me. This press conference is going on with, I mean, Ratan Tata's on stage.
Hmm.
All these conversations about how this was meant to come together, Tata and Fiat and Italy and India and all of that. And all those conversations are going on, and I'm like, "Sir," he's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "A question hai." So I mumbled the question to him. So he looked at me and said, "Hmm." So what do you mean, hmm? He said, "You ask."
Hmm.
I said, "No, you ask." He
Hmm.
said, "No, you ask."
Hmm.
So this is going on. I'm like, "Dude, I'm not gonna ask a question." He's like, "You ask the question, it's your question." So I said, kaapte haath ke, "I have a question when Q&A time came." And I was like, okay, should I be doing this or not? And I asked the question. It's like a sigh of relief after that because it turned out to be a reasonable question. I thought it'll be a complete because they went into a huddle to answer it after that. What I asked them was, what's going to happen to the Fiat? Because the whole conversation was, you'll get Fiats in Tata dealerships, so it'll
Correct.
be a better thing and all. So my question was, what happens to the Fiat dealerships? What happens to that ecosystem? So then they got it all. Clearly, they'd not thought that part through. But anyways, yeah. So that was my first, and it was a big one for me, and I remember it for the music and that not being stupid. You?
I don't remember
Where?
because I don't value press conferences.
Okay.
I've discovered very early on that it is a way for a manufacturer to set their agenda. They're very, very careful not to say anything else. So outside of what is on the playbook, you don't get any additional information. And it takes a lot of time and seniority before you can have the confidence for them to tell you information that they know will contextify your story without it being a leak or a scoop or whatever, right? I have no interest in press conference. So the first drive I went for, ironically,
So one sec, you went for a drive first.
yeah,
Okay.
Lord Alto.
All right.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
at this place called Golden Huts just outside Gurgaon, and now it is a old rundown property. Back in the day, it
Acha.
was the cool place outside. There was, apart from this, there were basically dhabas. So you took the car from there, and the road to Jaipur was the fresh 4 lane. Yeah, that stretch was 4 lane. I don't know if the whole road was 4 lane. So you drove the Alto, you came back, and how was it? Yeah, a little body roll and all. We made some stuff up. Didn't know anything. Luckily, there were other journalists there who were discussing things. And so you gather from the senior guys saying, oh, okay, they think this car doesn't have too much body roll. I think it has too much body roll. So recalibrate. They think the engine is really smooth. Recalibrate. So my story carried a lot of
Inputs.
wisdom that I gathered rather than my wisdom. I didn't know anything.
Yeah, I mean, like this is what we always say, right? Unless you ride enough of different vehicles, unless you have those reference points, how do you take a call?
No, and the lack of reference points is a huge thing. Okay,
Yeah.
I met a friend of mine called Prashant in Mumbai, and Prashant was in the circle of people who used to keep getting grey market bikes, riding them for a while, moving on from that bike. And Prashant fell into the habit of letting us ride his bikes for stories. So one day he called, like right at the start, and says, "Do you want to ride this new Yamaha bike called the Thunder Ace?" What is a Thunder Ace? It's not on sale. He said, no, it's a 1000cc inline 4. Okay, yeah. So we went to Worli Seaface. I rode the bike. And I wrote, if you can find this story, it'll be kick-ass because you'll laugh your head off, okay? Because the story is like, oh, wow. Okay, I wrote the story. And then successively, I wrote many, many more bikes. And as the stories progressed, my ability to understand how good, bad, ugly, etc. became better. Then many years later, I read the Thunder Race reviews from when this bike was new in the world. And they were like, oh my God, what a terrible motorcycle this is.
Yeah, I mean, of course. How would you know?
How would I know?
Yeah.
Right? So,
Hey, come on, don't be so hard on yourself because, like, right now we can still see, like, when we go, I mean, we talk about the European press that way. Their take on single cylinders is not something that you can take seriously.
In fact, the loop closes much later because then when you go back to Europe and you keep going back and riding more and more machines in our conditions, in their conditions, and when they start reaching conclusions for small motorcycles which they are unfamiliar with, and then you find yourself correcting them saying, no, this is not actually how it works. Right? Like we run into Chad a lot. And now the discussion with Adam is very different from where it started because in the beginning, Adam was giving us lots of information. But now, when, for example, he's at a Royal Enfield launch, Adam and I will usually chat where I get to set a lot of context for him in terms of how it works in India and why Royal Enfield would do certain things, which may not make at first glance sense to him. Right? For a long time, if, for example, Royal Enfield says export, 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 export. Right. So I met him and he's like, why are they doing this? I said, no, you have to remember, despite all the marketing for export, Bajaj is 50-50 more or less for exports. Royal Enfield is still 94-6. 94% of this product is never going to leave this country. 6% will get exported and they're working very hard to bring that 6 up to a far larger number. Until then, this bike's primary context is India. So the conversation over the years changes because you're able to understand the larger picture every single time. So that initial part of that excitement of everything is just kick-ass, and I wish in some ways that I could unlearn everything so that you could find that excitement again, right? But what I have learned from that over the years is, and I think Bijoy has a big part to play in this, is to keep an open mind and let brands surprise you. You always hope that the next product is the game changer for them, for the segment, for the customer, for the market, for what India represents to the world, all of it. And you always go in with that hope. And it doesn't matter which brand it is. It could be somebody who's struggling, like say Java, or it could be somebody who's super established, like say Honda. And you get your heart broken a million times if you have to. But you always go expecting this one will be kick-ass.
You know what, on this front, which is why I always think I'm terrible at what I do, because for me the bias is so strongly towards the machines. And I always look at a machine and I think it's not the machine's fault. It's the people who made those decisions, it's their fault.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, it must be right for somebody. It's okay, somebody it will fit. It should be right for someone. But yeah, I mean, as the machine, I mean, that's always been my joy and happiness in this. And finding some which are very narrowly, have a very narrow window in which they operate. That has been something that is feels painful at times.
Yeah, so I don't think I feel pain on that anymore, because I learned along the way that just because it exists,
Mm.
it need not be appreciated.
Mm.
So I'm able to separate the fact that I took a bad situation where, for example, it could be something simple like they selected a bad place to start
Mm.
this particular preview.
Mm.
Could be they engineered it badly,
Mm.
whatever it is. But that is for my story.
Mm.
First, I must have a good ride.
Huh.
And I'll do the things I need to do a good ride, which is going faster, going slower, asking for extra time, not riding it too much, whatever it is. I'll have a good time so that my experience of riding the machine is a good experience. Then you can take the cold, hard stand and say, okay,
That's the part I struggle with.
now how do you set context for this? Where does this thing fit in? And manufacturers sometimes do really, really nutty things, okay? We went for the launch of the Gladiator, which was a 125cc Yamaha motorcycle. Now it's based on the YBX engine, so it's not a very powerful engine to start with.
Gladiator.
Yeah. So the Gladiator is being launched. Where is this hotel? It is just below Shimla.
Ah, yeah,
Were you
yeah.
there for that launch?
No. I remember this story. Huh.
It's below.
Huh.
Where do we go first? Uphill. Everybody's like, this bike is not going, this bike is not going. And it was a rookie mistake in that sense, right? If you take a weak motorcycle and you're on a hill, the first thing you do is make everybody ride downhill.
Correct.
So that your first impression of the bike is, yeah, this is so powerful.
Huh.
But then from that top point, we went all the way to the bottom of that road, which was 30, 40, 50 kilometers of twisties. Holy crap, it was so good.
Yeah.
So at lunch, the mood had changed completely.
This would be 2005 itself.
Something like that, yeah.
Because I think I remember seeing the layout for it. I wasn't there, but I remember seeing the layout for it.
Yeah. Layout is the page being made before it goes to the press.
Yeah. So that's what I remember. I remember seeing it.
Did you enjoy the process of making videos right at the start? Was it a thing that you say, this is something I like to do?
So for me, it was fun because I actually started on the other side of the video process. So for the first set of shoots, so I joined Network 18 CNBC for a different project. That project was for digital, was a website, but that never really took off. So I got sideloaded into the television show. So my first job was actually on the show, was to just do all the production stuff, like to make sure the cameras are booked, the camera persons are informed that everything is working on time, the car is there, making sure schedulers are, once the shoot is done, footage has come back, it's been logged, all that has been done. So I used to do all of that, and I used to enjoy that as well. So I did that process, and it was later through that then that the motorsport coverage opportunity happened, and it was Renuka only, of course, who said that why don't you try that out. So I did that, and whatever, it was okay. And that led to, through a set of circumstances, but still, like, she gave me that opportunity to go for the first proper drive video, which was to Greece for the new gen BMW X5.
Wow, that's a big jump. Yeah,
straight out. And that was like crazy. I mean, I honestly didn't think, for some reason, not some reason, my uncle had told me, and he's like the Jyotish of the family. He's like, "Tu country ke bahar kabhi jayega hi nahi." So I had thought, no chance I'm going. I said, okay, I'm not going to get the visa. I had to go for an appointment because the first time I was traveling abroad, I'd never, and back then, 2006. So I went to Delhi for the visa appointment.
Oh yeah, that used to be a thing too. Yeah, I remember.
So I went to Delhi for the visa appointment, and the guy's looking at my papers, the officer, and he's like, he asked me 2-3 questions, and I was like, sure, iske baad to no chance. I got the visa. This is strange. I've got the visa. Okay, it looks like I'm going. Then I felt sick right before that. I said, yeah, this is gonna get worse. I'm not gonna go. Next thing you know, I'm better. I did go. I had a great drive. I had a great story, and that's from there. Video just kind of happened after that.
Nice. No, I had to make my peace with video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because see, I did print only for the first 8 years of my career.
So that's the difference, because you started off in the pure print phase. I came at the end of, not end, but it was the start of television.
Correct.
So the video phase was picking up. So my time in pure print was only that 1 year. So I saw the time that you're talking about, like, and that's strange. Like, you've seen it. You've seen the evolution. When we started off, we would ride a bike, car, whatever, drive, and then you'd have like an entire month there.
Not just that. I think the biggest thing was taking photographs takes a heck of a lot less time. So my pattern for the last 8 years, until I started doing the videos, was You get the bike, you do whatever amount of testing you need, and then you and your photographer agree on a date and a place. Then you go there for 2, 3, 4 hours, and you're done. And your biggest downtime in all of this is when he's taking the stills and details of this bike, which lasts half an hour, 40 minutes. So in 3 hours, the capturing of this motorcycle is done, and you can go back to your life and riding and having fun and thinking about how you'll write the story and stuff.
Right.
And therefore, you had not just time to ride, you had time to think, you had time to write, you had time to say, what is a clever headline, what's a clever first line. You had time. Then you come into video.
Yeah.
And initially, we were doing video and print together. So print is happening in the back of your head the whole time. You're always thinking about, how do I write this? How do I write? Okay, fair. But this video thing just wouldn't get over. 3 hours later, we're still taking action shots. Yes, this kind of action shot has happened. Now that kind of action shot is pending.
Yeah.
Then finally they'd say, okay, we are done with this. Now let us do statics. Now he starts rolling statics. It's in like an hour, and you're like, I want to ride the bike, man.
Yeah.
Especially at launches, right? Where you have a limited amount of time, where the manufacturer said, listen, we'll give you the bike as early in the month. And this is a rarity, okay? Where they say, before sunrise, take the machine. Which happens now a lot. Back in the day, it was 9 o'clock. And then by 3 o'clock, we want the vehicle back because you have to get it cleaned and all of that and get it ready or whatever. In this time, you have to experience it. You have to make your notes about what needs to be shot, what needs to be spoken about, how do you break down your pieces to camera. Then you have to actually film. It was crazy. I'll give you one example. We went on the Rubicon Trail in the Wrangler. PD and I were in the same car. And one of the other journalists on the same group, sharing the camera with us, decided he wanted to do a sequential running story where he would film as it went. So we were slower and slower and slower because they kept stopping and filming. Fair enough. By the time we got to the halfway place, we were camping in the night, halfway up the trail and coming back the next day. The guys who were curating the drive for us, because this is not a thing that you do by yourself. You need people to spot you and tell you how to move the car, otherwise you're going to break the car. They're like, no, you have to go faster, you have to go faster, you have to go faster. We have to, by this point, we reach the halfway point of this drive so that the rest of the drive happens in the daylight. When I get there, I have not shot a single piece to camera yet. It's halfway through the first day is gone. Now what do you do? So then literally that story, I looked at the place that we were at and I told the camera person, will you please give me 20 minutes of your time? So he says, okay, let me finish my sandwich or whatever, I'll come. And I basically said, that's frame 1, frame 2, frame 3, frame 4, frame 5, I'll sit on the Jeep, you figure out the background. And I finished my entire story like that. And it was frustrating because the Rubicon Trail is epic. And the way the Wrangler goes down that trail is also epic. But I was pushed into a corner where literally I drove the car for 2 days and I spoke for 5 minutes and I had to do whatever I could and then come back to the office and fill in VOs and hope that the experience was captured. And at that point, to me, making videos like that was just like, oh my God, this is so much work.
Yeah.
And not because the work is work. It's because I'm not getting to drive, ride. I'm not getting to experience it fully. And I have to keep giving these half-formed opinions because there is a time pressure to do it.
Hey, listen, you're talking about 45 minutes, that Corolla facelift.
Okay.
So this was, again, at Car India, Bike India.
Huh.
So
At the plant you went?
magazine.
Huh.
So from Pune, I fly to Bengaluru. And we're staying in this swanky resort which was owned by some film star and all of that. So the expectations have gone through the roof. Okay, next morning is the drive. So we are all, whatever journalists who have turned up for this event, are waiting in the lobby to drive the car. And when you see the Corolla, it has basically new tail lamps with LEDs in them, I think back then, or something like that. And they had changed the rear suspension. I think they'd gone to a twist beam or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but there was little bit of a change like that. So okay, we'll drive it. Yeah, sure. So everybody will go in sequence. You'll get time to drive the car. Okay, so you'll go. We'll make this is the list. This is how you go. The drive is from the hotel's lobby to the gate and back.
Yeah, it's just a twist beam and tail lamps. What do you need?
What the hell, dude? It blew my mind. How does this make sense?
Correct.
How does this make sense? You spent so much money to fly me business class, to stay in a resort, to drive this car for 7 minutes. Not even 7 minutes, I might be exaggerating. And I remember somebody explaining to me that, okay, you're going to make a story out of this.
Yeah.
In your magazine, you're going to give it at least 2 pages.
Yeah.
At least 2 pages. Which would cost at least 1 lakh of rupees otherwise. So it works. I was just like, Whoa, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
That makes sense. And that, in some ways, set a lot of perspective for me about how things work and what you should be looking for. And it's been so tough in so many ways on these things because, like you're saying, sometimes time availability to just get a sense of the vehicle is so little.
No, and from the outside, sometimes it feels like people say, "Oh, you stay in swanky hotels, you take business class flights, so they're pampering you, and therefore the stories are better."
Mm.
Actually, that charm lasts about 2 trips. By the third trip, you know that the work is going to make you go around the bend
Mm.
because the time will be restricted. The waiting in the airports, it is not pleasant.
Yeah.
In the flight, you learn to sleep. So all that business class experience, it's basically your eyes are closed and you're sleeping, and you're sleeping in a better ergonomic position than if you were in economy. And we've flown economy a lot too. It's not like that, right? So between the fact that you'll get the vehicle for 6 hours there, you'll have two nice dinners in the process, which the food has always been epic. That's no stress. You're so
As a
exhausted
vegetarian, I beg to differ.
because of jet lag and the travel times and all of that. You'll be exhausted out of your skull. So how pretty your room is of no consequence whatsoever.
On this, I'll tell you honestly, there have been times when we've come back from drives like this, and people have said, you're talking to somebody and saying, okay, you went, what did you go to drive? And you say, yeah, I went to drive this. Where did you go?
Yeah.
I
You don't
can't
know.
recall where I
You
went.
don't know. Like I have an image of a completely deserted German village that I'm driving through for something. I remember the village distinctly because it was so haunted looking in the sense of there's nobody around, to the point where whoever was with me in the car, we were thrilled to see a horse cart with a farmer on it, right?
Okay.
For the life of me, I can't remember where in Germany this village is or what car I was in. I know it was a supercar of some sort. So it should be a memorable vehicle.
Correct.
But I remember the village. I remember the horse cart. I have no memory of which car. I know it was blue.
You, oh, nice.
So when you do this
Clearly
on,
not super enough.
no, the thing is when you do this in rotation, you learn to anticipate the problems, right? 2 days given to the visa guys, having to go fill paperwork and over and over and over again because the Europeans and their Schengens, you think that they were passing out gold or something, which is stupid, right? Then
I hate the British visa
same,
process.
yeah. Then go to the airport, wait for X number of hours before your flight is called. There've been delays. You've been delayed in some random airport somewhere on earth for 5, 5, 6 hours. All of this drama has happened. I have not been lucky, never lost my luggage. People have lost luggage. All of this drama has also happened. Then you come to the other side. You're exhausted. You're dealing with jet lag. Now they'll tell you, okay, we'll drive here, we'll drive there. Uske beech mein you have to understand the vehicle. You have to understand what they were trying to achieve. Then you have to go drive the vehicle, get a sense of what it is, then decide how you want to do the pieces to camera, make sure the still pictures are there. By the time you wrap this up, it's time to sit down at dinner and be very formal with somebody you don't know.
Mm.
Then early in the morning, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock will be your wake up time because the flight is waiting for you now. And you do this in reverse, right? So in a matter of 36 hours, you've gone 4 time zones that way, 5 time zones this way, driven. It's exhausting. And at this point, the size of the pool in the hotel, I love swimming pools. The size of the pool in the hotel does not matter. What kind of gym does it have? Does not matter. What kind of food did they give? Does not matter. The only reason why I walked in a lot of the cities I went to is because it's a great way to put jet lag off. And in the early days, you know what? When somebody traveled abroad, especially from business and motoring, you'd basically be allowed a day and a half off to recover from it
Oh, nice.
because it was time.
Huh?
No,
No chance, man.
the amount of time I wasted getting visa appointments over the last 25 years, if I could ride a motorcycle every single one of those days, that'd be tons of mileage more. So now, the initial charm of the internet, I love traveling, don't get me wrong. But I'd rather travel in the country where it's a matter to take a flight, get out the other side, and do your thing rather than stand in a queue here, documents
This
there,
is
and all
not
of this
travel, yeah.
nonsense. Yeah.
People from the outside always think that, wow, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But this is not travel.
Yeah, 36 countries, seen nothing.
Yeah, you literally see nothing. I mean, you don't remember the names of the hotels you've been to, the airports, or anything around and about.
Yeah, I think the best trips that I got out of this was when there was time to take a break at the end of your official work,
Hmm.
which was pretty rare. But when you got those breaks, then it worked.
Okay.
Like I think right after Aarti passed, I went to Dakar a year or a year and a half after that,
Mm.
and she wanted to go to Machu Picchu. So I organized it like that. So I went, attended my event, stayed, went to Machu Picchu. Great trip. Then there was the drive for the Volkswagen Sirocco in Setúbal, Portugal, I think.
Yeah.
And stayed. Yamaha
You had the
organized
R1.
R1 for me.
Yeah.
Rode the R1 for a full day around in a very beautiful part of the
I remember
country.
we met you.
Yeah, because
Bert and
I
I
needed to go
were.
to the loo and I couldn't figure out where the loos were. So I knew that the Volkswagen place, which was a little fort type thing, had a loo. So I
Yeah,
went there, used the loo, met you guys in the process,
yeah,
had lunch with you guys, and then continued.
yeah.
And these 3, 4, 5 trips where I took a break, stayed longer, those were great trips. But the work trips, honestly, you don't remember anything about the country except in the places where you arrived 11 o'clock in the morning. And then you have the first day to walk around and see a lot of stuff. Or on the departure, the flight's in the night and there's no agenda for the day. So you get to walk around a little bit. Apart from that. But now we've been doing motoring for what, 2 years, 2 years. How has our process changed? Because remember, this is the first time we are in control of the process. We get to decide how to do the next thing.
Yeah.
Is it easier now to make videos than it used to be? And I'm only saying videos because it's the primary format for content consumption today. So
I don't know if it's easier. I think there's still, I mean, the kind of work that we're doing is different, but I think the effort required is, in some ways, to me at least,
yeah, video is very intensive work.
is even greater.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. That I agree.
So it's just that instead of baking in the sun outside, we're doing a
We're
lot
baking
of
inside the studio.
we're indoors and doing that work. But I think in terms of effort and in terms of the kind of processing,
I think what I'm really proud of is that we've been able to get the process to where the time to drive, experience, make notes, compare notes, have the database on the vehicles, pros, cons, positives, negatives in place before we have to say anything. That is, I think, our strength now.
I think the biggest difference there, like I would say for the view balance and all, fine, but especially first, where you would be in that tangle of being on somebody else's timeline,
Yeah.
and having to do video on ground,
Yeah.
or having to shoot and all of that, say your stuff there. I think that is the biggest.
It's a huge unlock, no?
Yeah, that's a huge, and I think it's most importantly, I think it's better for our audience. So whoever's watching this, you have given us your time, and I think we are doing a better job. We are being more fair to you through this process. I think that is the most
No, and I
important
think
thing.
personally, forget you guys for a minute. Personally, the fact that I have to go to an event, I have to be there early, take the bike and go ride. Outside of managing a GoPro, because you need some amount of footage for the first. You don't have to think about the video footage, story making. You're focused on the idea, on the spec, on the agenda, on the intent, on the context. And then you go there, do this. I normally ride about 1 tank full per bike now. EV is one charge. That means I have taken the bike in the morning. I have spent hours riding that thing, getting a sense of it, making notes, making mental notes and written notes, whatever the method is. Going back in the afternoon, everybody else will show up by evening because they have had to film. Knowing that all the people from the manufacturer are there, and now I have a bunch of questions. Why is it doing this? Why didn't do that? Why didn't you change this? Why did you add this? Why did you subtract one? So by the time you get back on the flight, you have a massive database of information and very well informed, relatively clean information. Then we don't discuss anything.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of the motoring first happens live in the sense of he's asking questions afresh because he doesn't know what I've experienced. And the same way for the cars. When he comes back, I don't know anything about the cars. And when you ask me a question I'm not expecting, then I have to start putting all of that data together from everything that I've collected. And I think it does make a more informed picture of the vehicle.
Yeah.
And I think views and balances are also more powerful for us as creators because we gave ourselves time. We said no, 15 days or bust. If you can't have the vehicle for 15 days, we're not going to do anything. Which is also why some of our videos take a while to come. But we'd rather do the right thing once than run through it and then have missing information in the process.
Okay. Going back to stories. Favorite photograph?
Favorite photograph? I got to ride the Ducati 916 in Mumbai.
Oh.
It was a rattly, clattery bike. It had been dropped a million times. So it was in great shape.
Dropped a million times.
It was one of those bikes which was bought because the owner read about this bike being awesome. It's a Ducati from that era. So the handlebar was practically on the front axle and the seat was on the first floor. So that thing was dropped in U-turns repeatedly and all the scratches were vertical like this on the bike. Right? There was a very colorful cafe at, Samudra Mahal in Worli.
Yeah.
So when you go down from Samudra Mahal, there was a very colorful cafe.
Yeah.
And they allowed us to park the bike and take a picture. So it was this bright yellow Ducati in front of this highly saturated graffiti of some sort, but not writing. It was a fresco, mural, or whatever you want to call it. The colors in that, and then there's a Ducati in the front of it. I was like, wow, that looks good. And there were a couple of other pictures. There's one of me falling off the eliminator. We were riding it in the dirt below Airoli Bridge.
Yeah.
And I think I went too fast and then I hit the front brake, no ABS back in the day. Yeah. And for once, the camera person didn't put down the camera and go, oh, which has happened a lot. He was taking pictures through the whole thing. So there's pictures of me.
So the sequence is there.
Yeah.
On film.
On transparency, yeah.
No, it's not from that standpoint. It's just that some pictures end up feeling a bit more special. It may be the light.
I remember places and situations where I had there was a Harley Davidson launch north of Barcelona at a place called Tona. What were these bikes? They were basically repainted bikes from last year with minor updates, as Harley Davidson would. But that road was so epic that it didn't matter that we were on a Harley Davidson. And there was a guy who was ahead of us who I've ridden with before. And he said, the Indians I love because when the photography stop happens, you guys don't take off all your gear and you guys are focused on your jobs. So we got the photography stops done really quickly and we kept riding. And he just rode harder and harder and harder. And yes, there were people in the group who started to fall back and we had to slow down here and there. But the guys at the front of this group who were riding fast, we were going fast. And he knew the roads, and that was at the end of their rotation. So they'd been riding this road for a month at that point or whatever, right? Between the recce's, between the previous groups that had come. So he knew the road. So he'd slow us down when the slippery sections came. He'd speed up when the fresh section. Oh my God, what a great ride.
Yeah.
So those kind of experiences I remember.
So as moments, it's such a strange one for me, but the classic when it came out, with the UCE, that ride.
Where was it?
From Chennai up to Kunur.
Okay, I didn't come for this.
It was such a strangely memorable ride for me. It was like the first time I went to Kunur, but the roads were beautiful.
It's a beautiful part of the
country.
country.
And there's this one place where we stopped at on the way. It was like a village road kind of thing, narrow road, state highway kind of thingy. And we stopped outside one little, like literally a hut, shanty kind of thing where to have chai, where the group was catching up again. And the dal vada there, my God, I can't forget that dal vada. Like it was unbelievable. I have a photograph of the dal vada, I think, also somewhere. But it was, and the not Bullet, Classic was not my kind of bike, but I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
It was like feeling a new sensation for the first time.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy that. So for me, that ride is more about a sense, it's wisps of things rather than a clear, sharp image of one moment. It's several different sensations.
Yeah.
And like Kunur for me became a super special place after that. And I love going.
And then you still go there.
Yeah, and I'm lucky to go back again now, and I love it. But that was like the first time, and I've always thought of, man, what a lovely place.
Yeah, it really is awesome.
Yeah, so like for me, that was a special one. But in story terms, the one and this one we were together is that he spoke about doing economy a lot. This trip was extra special. We flew economy from India to Mexico City.
Oh yeah, the SLS. And we were together in the car. Is that the first time we shot together?
Yeah.
Yes, we were sharing the car, sharing the camera person. So.
Everything.
Yeah.
So it was a Mercedes SLS AMG. Full wow factor. So a lot of excitement and all of that. But we flew economy from India all the way. I don't know, we stopped somewhere in Europe. Then we got to New York. And from New York, we flew to Mexico City.
And then from there to Puebla.
Yeah. And that was a flight.
Yeah.
And then there was a bus ride to the hotel.
Yeah.
So after all of that, we got to the hotel at some 11 o'clock at night. Next morning, we were supposed to start driving at 6 a.m.
Yeah, it was nasty.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I felt like an old resort towel, just like one moment before they throw it away.
But the best part about that, and that is again, like I can't tell you, it's a story I've told again and again.
Yeah.
We were driving the SLS and we were together and we'd keep swapping driving duties. And the camera person was a Brit who had been living in Mexico for the
Very,
longest
very
time.
senior news camera person.
So
Like he would say stuff like, "I was the first guy in Haiti after the earthquake."
okay,
BBC guy, right? And he was contracted to film for us, and he was assigned to us.
yeah. So he had his own van in which he had all his equipment. It was a van, like a North American
Yeah,
style
like a
van.
big van.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he had all his equipment. He was tracking from there and all of that, and we were driving. And we are driving the Carrera Panamericana, right? So
yeah,
it's, I mean, the Pan
yeah.
American
If you want to
Highway.
look up the route, it's from Puebla to Oaxaca.
Oaxaca.
Mm,
So we're driving that road and it's in the middle of the desert for, I mean, so many kilometers, there's just nothing around.
mm.
And we're driving, and at one point he's tracking where the shoot is going on. And we come to this small little village.
Yeah,
It's maybe not even village, it would be maybe 10 houses or something like
yeah.
that. And we just park on the side of the road. He parks, we follow behind him, and we stop. And as we get out of the car just to stretch, I think we had been wanting to swap places or something, because we had walkies, so we were radioing and all of that. We get out of the car, we're just stretching. From the opposite side, we see,
And that's behind me, so I'm not aware of this. He is.
I can see, right? So we've gotten out of the car, I'm looking that way, and from that side comes a column of Humvees. Okay, column might be an exaggeration, but there were at least 4 or 5, because they come, one comes, parks in front of the van, the other comes, parks next to the van, in next to the car. Then, like this, basically they form a circle around us. The Humvee has turrets at the back with mounted machine guns and soldiers in all of them.
And they pointed at us at this point.
And they, as soon as they park the vehicles, the soldiers jump out and form a cordon around us. And I I still think of that as such an incredibly stupid thing to do. The soldiers come and form that cordon around us, and I'm just like, wow, Humvee, soldiers, guns. And I take out my phone and I pick it up like that to take a photo of the soldier standing next to the Humvee, and the soldier just goes, he drops the gun down and points it at me. I'm like, okay, I get that message, no need for translation. I put my phone back. He takes his gun back. So, like that, I mean, I can't forget that, man. That drive was spectacular,
Yeah, it
no
was.
two ways, but this, just because of that, and I missed that photograph. But yeah,
That's okay.
alive to tell the tale.
That's okay. Yeah, yeah. No, no. In the process of all of these delays, when we went to the place where we were supposed to have lunch, the place had shut.
Oh, the tomato rice.
So he took us to effectively a Mexican dhaba, right?
Yeah.
And the food that, oh my God, it was
Oh
so
man.
good.
Yeah, that tomato rice was just unbelievable.
I had more interesting food than that, but yeah,
But I enjoyed it. It
Yeah.
was fantastic.
Yeah.
What do we do now? I mean, this is
I think this will lead to our a usual question about, is automotive journalism worth it? How to do automotive journalism, etc. What do you want to tell them? You tell them one thing, I'll tell them one thing. We'll sign off.
should you do automotive journalism?
Yeah.
It's too. I mean, it's always that, right? It's what is the barrier to entry today? There's no barrier to entry to be an automotive journalist. So you will spend a lot of time and effort to build up. If you are good, if you can have the drive and the determination to become good, if you are not good, and to be exceptional, you will have to fight all the more.
Yeah.
You'll have
The
to
barrier to
struggle.
entry is super low. The barrier to success is super, super, super high.
So it's just so easy to talk about a car or a bike, and today it's even easier. Everybody has access, and the bigger problem with this is we didn't have an option. So in a way, we struggled because we didn't have a choice, and we were lucky for that. Because we were taught, we had to go through stuff. We had that washing of cars and bikes taught us so many things as well
Yeah.
about the cars and the bikes. We learned to look close. We learned to look at things because we had to. Today, I don't know if that learning path is available to people. It goes straight to the end, and the end is offering your opinion on it.
Yep.
But the opinion, and today, and I am grateful, I have had great teachers whom I've worked with and who have taught so much. I would have been unwilling to learn as well. I'll admit that, because you have your own thought as a youngster, ki aisa hona chahiye or whatever. But by working with somebody who had the wisdom, who had a better sense, you learn from them. And that I'm grateful for. I still struggle with some people, but you still learn. And that's the good part. The idea is, do you have somebody to learn from? Can you really grow? to become better than what is there today? Can you do that? And that is an uphill task.
Mm. I'm thinking that in the era of instant gratification,
Mm.
automotive journalism simply cannot be done
Mm.
because everybody sees the end result,
Mm.
which is Ferrari will call me to Maranello and give me their latest car to drive. That's where it finishes. That's where your journey ends, right? Nobody wants to start anymore. Like in my previous place, there was lots of interns who came who had these visions that this whatever multi-strada test bike would come and they would just get to ride it.
Uh,
But it's not my bike. I'm responsible for it as the head of the motorcycle thing or whatever. But I can't give it to you until you prove your bona fides that you will not do something stupid with a 160 bhp bike, right? When you're wobbling around in your Activa, where is my confidence to give you a 160 bhp bike, right? In when we started out, we had to earn our way up, right? What were the bikes that we got first with these 100cc two strokes? When we said demonstrably, yes, we are safe, we are reliable, we are mature, we are taking care of them because your own vehicle, you damage it, you don't answer to anyone. Somebody else's vehicle, you damage it, you have to answer to someone. Are you aware of that responsibility? And in those days, I wouldn't have to make the phone call. Bijay would have to make that phone call,
correct.
right? And today, for example, he and I, we head our teams as it were. If my team member has an incident, we have to make that phone call. And therefore, we have to make them sensitive to the idea that this is not a frivolous thing. It's a very serious bread and butter thing. And therefore, you take it that level of seriously, even if your family drives an Audi, but today you're testing a Maruti Alto. The Alto is far more valuable than the Audi right now because it's on borrowed from somebody and we're responsible for it, right? I'm not convinced that today's youngsters, by and large, there will be the exceptions who I wish you would reach out to us and join us. But I'm not convinced that most of the youngsters understand how much work goes into building that credibility up, spending that time learning what is good, what is bad, what is ugly, what is the macro view and what is the micro view, and how to form an opinion on a vehicle. Everybody wants to be in front of the camera as soon as they sign the offer letter. It's not how it works. And because it is such a popular field, especially from the outside where you don't realize how hard the work is, because it is such a glamorous field, everybody's flocking to it today. And because they've lowered the barrier to entry, because basically you need a GoPro and you need to be able to speak a language and you can become an automotive journalist, everybody's trying their hand at it, which is awesome. As a thing that makes vehicles more popular to people, I think it's awesome.
Mhm.
But that doesn't automatically mean that the quality of everything that is happening has gone up. It means without knowing anything, people are offering opinions. And I was there. We've both done it at the beginning of our careers. We had guidance to get us to improve, improve, improve. And as he said, I don't know where you're going to get your guidance from. And two, because it is so popular, the base of this pyramid is so wide. At the top, the place for success is for very, very few people. And that climb is epic hard today. We were very lucky that we joined a business where 30 people were in the business and we were numbers 31 and 32. So whether we are good at our jobs or not, we didn't have to struggle with hundreds and thousands of content creators to reach a place where you said, okay, now we know what's going on and we are at the top of our game at least. Even if not competitively, at least I know what I know. Today, I don't know. How would you do it?
And there was something, I mean, there are a couple of
Sorry, and one more thing I want to add here is your passion and your profession don't have to coincide. This is a really, really stupid thing that the world has taught you,
oh God, dude. Complete.
right? So I have family who are pilots, and by pilots I mean salaried and well paid.
Mm.
They do more about their passions than I do as a full-time motorcyclist. Because as a full-time motorcyclist, I still have to do other parts of my job which may or may not directly involve a motorcycle. They basically fly, come back, and then they have the money and the time both to do
Correct.
this, right? So if it's your passion, if it can be a profession, you can marry the two really well. Awesome. This will not happen for most of you. And if you can find a profession that you're happy to do and it fuels your passion, that is actually the best case scenario. There is a difference between what you love to do and what you're really good at doing. What you're really good at doing is very good at creating the money you need to do what you love. But the two coinciding, it's super rare.
There was a comment like this recently saying that, why are you talking so fondly about a small car?
Yeah, why not?
It's like, what is that
It's going to
supposed
change
to
some
mean?
family's life somewhere.
I mean, a small car is the first car for so many people. It'll be the first form of mobility that will give them so much joy.
Yeah,
And I'm happy to see that it is an important part of our system. So
correct.
why should it not be given the respect? So that sense of entitlement that you spoke about, I think
Mm.
when we saw this as a opportunity. We were lucky.
Hmm.
Today, people will think that you're lucky if I work for you, and therefore I should get something back in return. And I think that's a
No,
dangerous
and
place to start.
I'm not convinced that the amount of effort that is required to really become massively good at this job, I'm not convinced that people have the patience for the slog that it represents.
Hmm.
And I'm honestly telling you, there is no way for me to give you a way to reach the 10,000 kilometers you need so that you have a database of what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly. You have to complete those 10,000 kilometers. If those 10,000 kilometers are done on, say, 100 bikes, your database is huge.
Hmm.
If they're done on 50 bikes, it's smaller, but it's deeper. But you have to, as your boss, I can only enable you to have more machines in those 10,000 kilometers. But there's no way to do 10,000 kilometers faster. But if you don't have the patience to say, I need this database ready so that I can offer an opinion that is valued, it is correct, it is well weighted, I don't know how you're going to do it.
And honestly, if you just want to be an internet sensation, there are easier ways to become that
Oh
than
yeah,
do
yeah, for
this.
sure, for sure. If virality and fame and celebrity is your thing, automobiles is one of the hardest ways to
Yeah.
achieve this. There are much easier ways to do it. Much easier ways to do it.
Done.
That's it.
Yeah, I think that was
Okay. What do you want to talk about next time?
Oh, this was nice. It was a surprise, and I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Surprised me.
Done. 3, 2,
2,
1.
1.
Disconnect.
Disconnect.